It finally is the day. We are going to give you guys the top lists of all the specials after we've mastered every single one of them on my noob account in a row. Of course, if you have missed any episode or you want to watch them back, you can of course do that on the channel. But guys, today we are ranking every single special there's in the game from best to worst. So let's get this started. Hey guys, what's DefildPlays here? Welcome back to another video. They're back at Roblox and Fighting Simulator for another video. So today, guys, we are doing the final master video, quote unquote. So we already mastered every single power there is in the game. Of course, there's gonna be new stuff coming up pretty soon in the update. So I want to get this video out as soon as I can before every info is invalidated. So what we're gonna do today, guys, is we have ourselves a tier list and we're gonna go rank every single power there is in the game on there. And of course, it's gonna be based on should you get it or should you not get it, how good is it, whatever it is. Of course, if you want to have more details on specific like powers, go check out the master videos. But today is going to be an all-round mashup of every power there is in the game. 3, 2, and 1. So on the screen right now, guys, is the tier list. Of course, we have ourselves the S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and we have never played, but we're going to change this to useless because there is some powers in this game that are absolutely trash in my opinion, and I would never get them. So we're gonna go in order as they're laid at the bottom. So we're gonna get ourselves some armaments, we're gonna sell some bloodlines, we're gonna get ourselves some devil fruits, etc. So we're gonna get ourselves everything in a row. So let's get going. 3, 2 3, 2, and 1. So first up we have armaments. Armaments in my opinion are pretty good, but I don't think they're as tier just because of the reason that you cannot get them anymore if you're a new player. I think that as well plays a big role in powers of a special, just because, you know, if you cannot get it anymore, what's the purpose of having it in the game? But still, I want to start off with putting this one in the A tier, the olive power of the armaments, just because it's really good. Then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take ourselves the blue rose sword special. I think this one is pretty good. It's not as good as the olive. I'm gonna go give it a B over there. It's still pretty good, and you can use it in a few scenarios. It has some nice binds, some nice AoEs, but I still think that the olive sword is better as a special. And then of course we have Kirito's one. I think this one is useless. It looks really cool. I'll be honest, it looks really cool. It's really nice. It just doesn't do enough damage. It has a very long cooldown. It has a very long animation. I don't think it's really good. Like, okay, but I'll give it a D tier, not like useless tier, because like there's some more useless things coming up right now at the bottom, but I don't think it's that great in my opinion. Then up next we have ourselves the bloodline. So first off we have ourselves copy eyes. This one's absolutely useless in my opinion. It's super garbage. Like none of the powers do anything. Like you can literally do any damage with it, and you copy a power of someone else's to use it. I don't think it does anything. Then after we have ourselves the white eyes. I think white eyes actually is pretty decent. We're gonna put this at a nice C tier. It's just the mid of the way. I think all the bloodlines besides one of them are pretty garbage, I'll be honest. Again, next up we have Itachi's copy eyes. It's gonna be in the useless section as well. Actually, it's gonna go in D tier below Kirito's armament, just because it has one ability, which is the black flames, which allows you to just go ahead and farm AFK on a noob if you want to, if you need to get yourself some kills. But furthermore, this special literally has no use at all. Then we have ourselves the ripple eyes. This one is pretty cool, but I don't think still it's that insane compared to any of the other specials in the game. It is better than the white eyes in my opinion, just because it has a very large AoE, but I don't think it's that great either. It still is low scaling. It's like 10 times scaling, 4 or 5 times scaling. There's a lot better stuff in the game, but yeah, it's not that great. Then we have ourselves the flying thunder god. So this one is very interesting. Of course, it's again another power that is only from a fighting pass, but again, it's not that great. It has some really cool ability. It's a really interesting special, but again, I think this one has a very big niche. It's like, I think a D tier, but it's the highest D tier there is, because you have yourself a dodge, you have yourself some other stuff. So it's a cool thing to use in PvP, but against bosses, it's absolutely useless. Then we have ourselves the Kurama one. This one again is useless. It is cool. Again, it's a very cool perk to use. it just buffs damage. That's everything it does. So you can use yourselves for normal powers, but this perk literally doesn't really add anything at all to the game. It just makes you like a very big fox, and that's technically it. So I wouldn't really use this one at all. It's kind of useless in my opinion. Then we have ourselves the first one, Perfected Wings, which I think is right now in the fighting pass. I know maybe like down the line once you see this video, you cannot get this power anymore, but I would literally de-honor it if I wouldn't give this S tier. This thing is insane. It's mentally OP. It's really, really good for a lot of bosses. And, you know, like, literally, I think this is maybe the strongest power there is in the game. But, of course, we'll have to see after we go down the list of all the power. Okay, we're gonna go move on to Devil Fruits now. And first up, we have ourselves the Rubber Fruit. Again, a very low tier. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of powers are gonna be at the D tier. It's just not that great. It's pretty, it gets you going, you know. It's not a bad fruit, but it's not great either. We got ourselves the Rubber Fruit. This one is kind of funny, but again, it's useless. It just has no scaling at all. It has no damage. Nothing you really can use from this is gonna be very useful. So I am not the biggest fan of this one. The next one though, I'm actually quite fond of. The Thunder Fruit is pretty cool. I think it is a nice low C tier. It has some really nice attacks, some really nice AoEs. You can go ahead and just go use this as your everyday fruit, in my opinion, because that's like even a big 60 times scaling on the C ability. I think this one's pretty decent. It's not the most OP thing in the game, but if you want to get one, I would recommend this one 100%. Here it sells the Quake Fruit. This one is even a little bit better than the fruit we just had before. Again, it's still not the greatest fruit, but it still has a nice projectile with a large AoE. Actually, I'm going to put it at the top of the C tier. It's not quite just B tier because it doesn't come close to Yujo's Blue Sword, in my opinion, but I think it's still really cool. That's the big waterfalls to use on the C ability, the Tsunami. I think there's quite a lot of cool things with this fruit, but it's just not quite there yet compared to any of the other powers in, you know, raw power, usability, that kind of stuff. Then the Dark Fruit is up next. This fruit, in my opinion, is absolutely garbage. You guys maybe think like it's different, but I think this one is just way harder to use, and it's just bad. By the way, the use is not in any kind of order or whatever. It's just going to be, you know, in order for the video. But I don't think this one is very useful. It has some big AoEs, but they're very hard to use and they're very clunky. We've seen that in our master video. So I wouldn't even want to use this one. I would rather use the explosive or the Rubber Fruit over the Dark Fruit in my opinion. The next up on the list would be the King Fruit. For some reason, it's not on this tier list. So just imagine the King Fruit is here. Again, this is a pretty bad fruit. It's going to be probably in the useless tier. It just doesn't do enough damage. It's like 10 damage, 25 damage, and as well like a 5 damage to take. But the thing is about this one is that it has like some very random hitboxes. It's like a lightning attack, so it doesn't really hit anything. So it would be the D tier, the useless tier probably, or like very low D tier. But yeah, there's no image for this one. So like just imagine it's there. Then we have one of my favorite fruits, the Magma Fruit. I think it's gonna be definitely A tier. It has a lot of scaling. Like it has some big AoE, some magma pillars, things flowing like meteors coming down from the sky, and a massive gigantic AoE which you can just aim down, and it has times 80 scaling, so it's extremely good. I love this one, and what makes this fruit even better is the fact that you can almost get it easily like in 1 or 2 shots if you would spend a little bit of Robux. Maybe that sounds very strange, but you can of course buy the random fruit, and it will either give you, I think it's the Smoke Fruit, or it will give you this Magma Fruit. And this Magma Fruit is just so good. I don't think it like, oh, it's just amazing. I like this one a lot. Then up next we have the Light Fruit. This one is gonna be a high A tier. It's gonna be better than the Magma even, but of course the big drawback of this fruit is that it's from the tournament shop. I would give it an S tier if it wasn't in tournament shop. You could just get it, but it's gonna be A tier because of that you have to get the social tournament coins. It's furthermore, it has giant AoEs, big powers, massive scaling. Like it has like a 40, 60, 15 ticks, and it's just gigantic AoEs which you can aim. I think this one is really, really, really good, but again, like I said, it's not S tier just because it's from the tournament shop. Then we have Snake Man. I think I'm gonna put this at a low C. It has some cool abilities. It's just not as reliable. It doesn't have big, gigantic AoEs besides like a rapid barrage of punches on the X ability. It's just, you know, it's decent, but with its long cooldowns of like 9 seconds, I think there's a lot of better powers out there in my opinion. Then we have Buddha. The thing about this fruit is that it's really bad for bossing. It is pretty good for PvP just because it has large AoEs. I like that a lot, but for bossing, it's just meh. So I think I'm gonna put it at that B tier. It's better than Snake Man just because, like I said, big AoEs is always very nice. You look really cool doing it, but again, it's another fruit that you cannot get anymore. Yeah, I think the B tier is pretty perfect for this one in my opinion. Of course, let me know in the comment section down below if you guys agree with this, but yeah, I think it's okay, but you know, could be better. Then we have ourselves another tournament fruit. I think this one's pretty decent as well. I think in my opinion it goes below the Buddha fruit just because again it's another tournament shop item. It has a lot of big AoEs. It has some nice tick damage, and I think that's always a very good thing to have. But again, tournament shop, and it's just not as good as the light fruit. The light fruit is just a lot better. So I think a low B tier is pretty perfect for this one. Then we have one of the newest brothers of the fruit gang, and that is the smoke fruit, and this is gonna be an absolutely useless tier. This one, it does lock on, it does do damage, but you are stun locked the whole time of using it, and if I don't like a power, it's if something stun locks me literally during the whole duration, and it even stun locks you afterwards. So I think it's totally useless to use this one. Like, you're better off using a mobile fruit instead. It has very short range. It just, you know, it has like one dash, I guess, but yeah, it's just not great. I don't like it that much. I don't like it that much. Like, I would rather have the magma fruit a lot more over the smoke fruit. You could debate it could be a low D tier, so I'm just gonna put it there for now. But if we get too many D tiers, this is probably gonna go to move to the useless tier, in my opinion. Then we have an interesting fruit. This is gonna be the Phoenix fruit. It is, of course, from the Fighting Pass once again. This one is kind of a double standard for me. It's really cool. It's some big AoE, some big ranges, but the big problem is you cannot use it for bossing. So it's one of the fastest fruits out there. So if you want to move along the game, you definitely want to use this fruit. It's pretty good for PvP. It does like a lot of damage. It has a very short cooldown as well of like 3 seconds on some abilities. I'm gonna put it high C. I think high C is a pretty nice one. It's not a B tier in my opinion. It doesn't do the job as well as Buddha just because I think going into Phoenix form is kind of clunky, but you know, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It does the job. And I think it's one of the coolest looking transformations there's in the game. Maybe even the coolest one, because the Phoenix is just extremely cool. So I think a mid-height C tier is pretty okay. And we have and we're up next to the Grimoires. So we're gonna start off with the Water Grimoire. This one's ranked as the worst one there's in the game, but I will definitely give it its credit as a high B tier. It is really good. It has a 75% scaling armor. It has some 50 times, you know, like scalings on where you shoot stuff. It has really good boss damage, and it has short cooldowns. I think it's pretty good. And of course, like if you would rank this special as a special alone, it's not like the highest B tier there is, but I think a highest B tier is perfect for this one just because it is the most common power from the store. I think that's always a very important thing as well to take into consideration with specials. Like, you have to grind for a super high one, or you can just get this one and it's really good. So I will say like the Water Grimoire is like a B tier in my opinion. It's pretty good. Then we have ourselves the Wind one. I think this is gonna be probably a high D tier. It is pretty okay. It has long cooldowns for... Actually, you know, I'm gonna put it above Snake Man. I'm gonna put it above Snake Man. So it's gonna go to a low C tier. It is pretty good. It has some short cooldowns, has some nice powers you can use on a distance. You can move them, you can aim with your mouse. So I think it's pretty good. It goes around the C tier. Like, a lot of powers are C tier, which is interesting. So I would think this one is pretty good. Then we have ourselves the Demon one. This is a fan favorite of a lot of people just because it gives you a lot of airtime. I think it's worse than the first Grimoire, the water one, just because it doesn't do as much damage. And I think you can just do the same thing with the Water Grimoire, but easier, in my opinion. I don't think it's better. So yeah, then we have ourselves two more. That's going to be the Tree and the Dark Grimoire. And I think both of those are just pretty bad. I think the Tree one is useless tier. And I think the Dark Grimoire... like, it has some good stuff, but it just doesn't do that much damage. It just doesn't do that much damage. I think that's the big sad, if in my opinion. So I'll give this low. Like, it's above the smoke fruit, that 100%. Okay, I'm gonna move smoke fruit to useless. But it's above explosive fruits, but I think that's probably it. I think actually Itachi's deserves to be like let's do that. I think it's not better than Kirito's sword, but you know, like this is so hard. Is it better than Kirito's sword? Like, Kirito is such a long cooldown. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do it like this. I think this is better. This is better. So there we go. This is the order I want to put it in. This is the order I want to put it in. So there we go. Useless tier as well. Like, is it useless? Okay, no. Okay, we're gonna keep it as. So it's above the Flying God, but below Kirito's one. Okay, next up, we have ourselves the most interesting ones, in my opinion, because they're newer, Pyrokinesis. There's some very interesting ones, in my opinion, but the big but with this one is that most of them are really bad, besides the first one. I think the first one is a low B tier. The electricity Pyrokinesis is, I think, really decent. It's not super great, it's not super amazing, but it's the best one from the Pyrokinesis line, in my opinion. Radiation is pretty okay as well. I would put this as like a C tier above Phoenix, but I think that's it. It doesn't do that much damage. That's the big problem. Then we have ourselves Devil's Flame. It's pretty okay as well, but not that great. Again, it's above Phoenix, in my opinion. Then we have ourselves the last one, which is a Severed Universe, and this one goes in useless tier. I don't like this special at all. It does damage, yes. It's just very clunky to use. It doesn't look good either. Okay, but okay, let's go. Like, I will not be that harsh on this power, but like, I think it's over. I think it's like that's shorter cooldowns. Yeah, okay, we're gonna put it at the high D tier. It's not useless, but I think for how rare it is, because of course it's the rarest Pyrokinesis attack in the game, I don't think it's that good. Of course, you can watch my master videos if you want to have more explanation on this one. I don't think it's that great. It's really bad for bossing as well. And for how rare it is, I don't think it belongs in anything above D tier. Then we're going to go into an interesting territory. These are the Quirks. Quirks are interesting just because at the start of the game, Quirks are pretty bad. So we're going to start off with Belly Laser. It's going to be low D tier. It's not that interesting. Cremation is pretty okay, but it's not that great. It's gonna be like above the explosive fruit, but that's technically it. Half of Half Cold though is one of the better ones out there. I'm gonna actually put it above Buddha fruit, but I don't think it's gonna be above the sword. So it's gonna be like a high B. It's pretty nice. I will say this is pretty nice power, but you know, there's some better ones out there, which we'll talk into over in a minute. But then next up, we have ourselves the one for everything. I think it's pretty bad. We're gonna put it like next to Pyro, I guess. It's not that great. Then we have ourselves Overhaul. This one is some pretty nice spiky attacks. So I think it's again around like a little bit higher than Flying God, I would say, because there's more damage than Flying God. But it's is it better than Severed Universe? It's below Severed, but I think it's better than Kirito's sword. So there we go. We're gonna put that there. Then we have ourselves Hellflame. I think this one's pretty good just because of its large AoEs. I think it's worse than Half Hot, Half Cold just because, again, it's a really rare one. It's like the rarest one there is almost. So I would say this one is good, but it's not as good as Half Hot, Half Cold. So I think I'm actually, by the way, gonna put the Buddha fruits back a bit. I don't think it's that great if we compare it to the rest. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a nice spot for that. Then we have ourselves, after that, we have some really interesting ones. Of course, these ones are from the Funny Pass. We got ourselves Jet, Zero Gravity, and Explosion. Like, these ones are pretty hard. I think Jet is quite okay. It's decent. It's like above. It's like kind of like Wind Grimoire tier, in my opinion. It's pretty okay. And it's some nice speed boost. I think that's pretty cool. And then next up, we have ourselves Zero Gravity, one of my favorite quirks in the game. I will say this one is above Pyrokinesis, but it's below the Dark Grimoire. I think that's a perfect spot for this one. It's some really nice damage scaling, some nice stuff to use as well. I like this one. Maybe I have a little bit of a bias against Quirks, but I think it's pretty good. And then we have ourselves Explosion, and this one is just extremely good. It's going to be definitely A tier above the Magma Fruit. It's just a better Magma Fruit. You know, that's kind of what it is. It's a better Magma Fruit. It's sort of the same thing, but it has gigantic explosions, it has short cooldowns, and it has very nice tick damage. I think I will even put it above the Olive Sword. It's not quite S tier, but yeah, it's there. Next up, we have ourselves the most dreaded category, in my opinion, and that is stands. These bad boys, there's a ton of them. And even though some of them may be useful, I'm just gonna take one stand, and they're just all gonna be the same tier. They're gonna be useless tier. Like, I can put all of them at useless tier, like we have all of them here, but I don't think I want to waste even more than one slot on the stands. They're just really bad. Then next up, we got ourselves the Sword Styles. Ooh, I'm excited for this one. Sword Styles, I am a very big fan off 100%. So first up, guys, we have ourselves Water Style. I think this is a it's like a mid C tier. It's not too bad. It's not too great either. It gets the job done, you know. It's fine. It gets there. Then next up, we got ourselves the Thunder Style. Ooh, it's pretty bad for bossing. It's pretty bad for bossing. It has its AoEs, it has its stuff, it has its auto aim. I think it's pretty good for PvP. So I think it's like it's not an A tier. It's not an A tier. It's like probably a low B tier above the Buddha Fruit. I think that's probably it. So then after we have ourselves the Wind Style. This one's pretty good. There's some large AoE, some big hits. I'm gonna put this below the Ice Fruit, but above the Demon Grimoire, because it does the same thing as Demon Grimoire. You can go ahead into the air, use your other abilities. I think it's a lot more versatile than the Grimoire is, so it's going to probably be around this spot. Then we have ourselves the Flame Style, the rarest one you can just get out of the box. Flame Style is really good. It's above. Ooh, I think it should be around here, in my opinion. Okay, I think this should be good. Then up next, we got ourselves the Moon Style. What is really good about the Moon Style, of course, is its raw damage. The big thing is that it has some inconsistencies with its X attack, which is like the random lightning attack. I think it's gonna be probably a B tier. It's better. I think it's better than Thunder Style. I think it's better than Thunder Style. It's not super amazing. I think Flame Style is better, but you know, it's not too bad. We have ourselves two left from the Sword Style, and that is going to be, of course, the Sun Style and Insect Style. I'm going to leave Sun Style to last, but we have ourselves Insect Style. I think this one is really good just because it has some very big AoEs, some very nice tick damage as well, and like, I think it's just a really cool one. I don't think it's super bad. So I think it's a low A tier. It's not better than Magma, in my opinion. It's not better than Magma just because, like, it doesn't have, like, a big upfront damage. It is really nice damage overall because it does a lot of tick damage, but it doesn't do a lot of initial damage. So I will say it's pretty good, but it's low A tier. It's better, in my opinion, I think, than Flame Style, but it's not the best. Then we have ourselves one more style to go, and this is definitely an immediately S tier. I think it's above, yeah, it's above the Susano, in my opinion. It is really good. It is extremely good. I think this is the best power in the game, 100%, so it definitely deserves the S tier, in my opinion, for Sword Styles. We have ourselves two powers left, and these are going to be the Kogune and as well the Titan. Sadly, this chart doesn't have both of them, but again, just like stands, just think about that this one would be the Kogune. Kogune is useless tier. It is very short range. It has some stuff, but any other power in the game just does better what the Kogune would be. So, like, it's going to be useless tier. And the Titan, again, is going to be useless tier. It's way too big. It has its purpose for getting on top of a tree with the carrot boss fight. But yeah, I think that's technically it. Like, like you have to unlock the powers from the boss, so you already need some other powers for it, and in my opinion, other powers it is better. It's cool to unlock it, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's going to be there. So that's going to be useless tier. So Kogune and Titan are both going to join stand at useless tier. I don't think there's any purpose for you guys to get them besides of being a completionist, but I think that's all the powers you need to have, in my opinion. So looking at this tier list, I think I am pretty content with this one. I think everything is fine. Yeah. I'll maybe move some stuff around a little bit, like, for example, maybe moving Buddha to there and this to there. But I think all of these are kind of at a right spot. Of course, let me know what your tier list would be. Like, make one yourself if you want to. Do you guys agree with this list? I think if you want to go for some powers, definitely shoot for the S tier as soon as you can. You can get yourself, like, I think, to be honest, if you just want to get yourself one style, because you can only use one style at a time, get yourself the S tier sword style, so the sun style. You can just get it on the noob account, and then maybe get yourself a magma fruit, and you can use yourself the insect style or the moon style as well, in my opinion, to get yourself the S tier. So you can get yourselves this one or this one, depends on what you want to get. You can use that to get yourself the S tier, because you have to defeat some bosses, etc. So yeah, I think having all these powers at the top, I think they're pretty good. So these are the ones you should aim for, and you can always opt for some B perks. I think the water Grimoire is a really good one to start with, because it's super easy to get, and you can do a lot of bosses with them. So I would definitely recommend that one. Yeah. I think that should be it. There we have it, guys. The final tier list of all the specials. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree? Some powers maybe should be moved up or down. Let me know what you guys think about this. I think this is a pretty reasonable one. Of course, if you want to have more explanations, go check out my master videos on the channel. It should have all the details on every single power. And if you want to have more specific things of just for bossing and just for PvP, all of them are rated on a scale for PvP and as well bossing. This one's just more universal list of what you should get. But yeah, I think this is, in my opinion, the perfect list there is right now. Maybe some small tweaks here and there, you know. But yeah, you can always work this out yourself. Like, everything B tier should be B tier, everything C tier should be C tier, everything D tier should be D tier, you know, all that kind of stuff. And useless, just don't even touch it. So if you have enjoyed this video, hit the like button down below, guys. Of course, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys later today or tomorrow for another video. So say, guys, take care, love you, bye, thanks so much for watching, and of course as well, take care.